Later in the day on Monday, President Biden will hold a bilateral meeting with President Xi Jinping of China. This is the first time that President Biden and President Xi will have this is the first time that they will meet face-to-face since President Biden became president. President Biden has made it a priority to keep lines of communication open with President Xi, to responsibly manage the competition between our two countries, and he believes there is no more important channel than that between the leaders of the United States and China. From day one of the Biden administration, our approach to the PRC has followed the same fundamentals. Invest in the foundations of our strength here at home, align our efforts with a network of allies and partners, and compete responsibly to defend and advance our interests and those of like-minded nations. The meeting between President Biden and President Xi will be an in-depth and substantive opportunity to better understand one another's priorities and intentions, to address differences, and to identify areas where we can work together. Because working together to address common problems is in our interest, and because it is what the world expects of responsible powers.
In the briefing we had earlier about the Xi meeting, there was a mention of some proposals on areas where there could be some collaboration. Was that specifically regarding tariffs and trade negotiations, and will there be any progress on that?
I don't think you should look at this meeting as one in which there's going to be specific deliverables announced. Rather, the two leaders are going to give direction to their teams to work on a number of areas, both areas where we have differences and areas where we can work together. That will include direction to the economic teams to address our concerns about Chinese economic practices and to deal with some of the underlying differences of view and perspective on economic matters. It will also involve giving direction to try to work on issues on which we do have common interest, whether it's health, counter-narcotics, climate, or other areas. Yeah.
So, two-part question on the Asia trip. First off, what impact does midterm elections have on the president's ability to deliver on American commitments overseas? And secondly, now that Xi is through the Congress in China, does that affect his willingness to work with the United States or embolden him to conflict with the United States more? What impact do you think that could have?
So first, when it comes to the president leaving after the results on Tuesday and the incoming results that continue to flow in, he feels very good about where things stand, and he feels like he is going out on this trip with the wind very much at his back. And that gives him an excellent opportunity both to deal with competitors from a strong position and to rally allies. And as far as the continuing support of the United States for critical foreign policy initiatives, the president was clear yesterday, and he will be very clear on the trip that there will be strong, enduring, unflagging, unwavering support for Ukraine in the face of Russia's aggression. There is a bipartisan basis and foundation to our approach to China, and he looks forward to working with both parties on that issue, whatever the final composition of the two houses of Congress are. But in general, he goes out on this trip feeling like the results from Tuesday show that the American people, are sending him out onto the world stage in a very strong position.
On the China issue, what impact does the Xi's new term into the Communist Congress? What impact does that have on their willingness to work with the U.S., do you think?
That remains to be seen, and part of what the president is eager to determine is in a face-to-face meeting where for the first time since he's come into office, President Biden has come into the presidency, he will get to sit in the same room with Xi Jinping, be direct and straightforward with him as he always is, and expect the same in return from Xi, and then he can make his judgments on that basis about how to take things forward. That's why this meeting is extremely important. There just is no substitute for this kind of leader-to-leader communication in navigating and managing such a consequential relationship.
Two questions about the meeting with President Xi. One, yesterday the president did not commit to telling President Xi that they would, or the U.S. would, defend Taiwan militarily. How should Taiwan be interpreting that answer? And secondly, the Treasury released a report today saying that, or criticizing China for not being more transparent about its foreign exchange policy, and explicitly calling it a failure. Will the two leaders speak about that tomorrow as well?
So on your first question, as many of you know, having seen President Biden go into consequential meetings with foreign counterparts, he doesn't like to characterize what he's going to say to them. He likes to actually go say it to them. And as for how Taiwan might react to that, we'll have the opportunity as an administration to brief Taiwan on the results of that meeting, and I'm confident that they will feel very secure and comfortable in the United States' position when it comes to our support for peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and our commitment to the Taiwan Relations Act, which does commit the United States to ensuring we're providing the articles for Taiwan's defense. Yeah. Oh, and you asked about the FX report. I would just say that this has been a longstanding concern of the United States. It's been reflected in previous reports. It doesn't come as a significant surprise, but it is an area of significant concern for the United States. And I can't tell you standing here today whether that particular topic will come up among the wide range of things we have to discuss with the PRC.
On the meeting with Xi Jinping, can you give us some kind of assessment of how do you see Russia position vis-a-vis, China position vis-a-vis Russia? Do you think that you were able to neutralize him from supporting Russia so far? And what more do you think that the president can raise issues to make sure that they will stay the way it is and not involved with the war in Ukraine?
So first on the PRC, we have not, since President Biden and President Xi spoke some months ago, seen the PRC providing military equipment, weapons for use on the battlefield in Ukraine. And we have not seen kind of wholesale efforts to backfill or undermine the sanctions regime, though of course the PRC has continued its economic relationship with Russia over the course of the past many months. One other positive signal that we have seen was during the recent visit by the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, to the PRC, the statement on nuclear weapons and Xi Jinping specifically talking about the need to avoid the use of or even the threat of the use of nuclear weapons anywhere in the world. And in that context of that conversation, we regarded that as constructive. On the other hand, we believe that, of course, every country in the world should do more to prevail upon Russia, especially those who have relationships with Russia, to end this war and leave Ukraine. President Biden will have the opportunity to talk in detail about the Ukraine crisis during his meeting with President Xi.
Okay. Just real quick on Xi Jinping and the meeting there. President Biden has obviously met with him many times in the past. Some of the success of those meetings was seen to be a little bit of open-ended and sometimes informalities. This will be different, but is there anything that you guys are doing to try to recreate those sort of more informal exchanges that the two of them had, or is it sort of a meeting set up with many people alongside each side of the table that makes those types of informal discussions more difficult?
So the current setup of the meeting is one in which each of them will meet alongside their teams, but even in instances on video conferences where each leader has had their team with them, the hallmark of their engagement, no matter who's in the room, is one where they don't just read talking points, they don't just kind of march methodically through each of their scripts. They actually do have a robust back and forth, and it's on the bigger picture. Where is this relationship headed? Where is the PRC headed? Where is the U.S. headed? And especially at this moment, as the president comes out of these midterms, as Xi Jinping comes out of the 20th Party Congress, that bigger picture conversation is probably the most important element of this meeting. That's what the president has on his mind going in. And I think for that reason, it is going to be an important and, in my view, highly constructive contribution to how we manage this relationship going forward. Sorry, guys.